The following presentation is for educational purposes only. Jason Ward and Rick Reynolds are not trained medical or psychological professionals. Their services are meant to be complementary to traditional care and are not intended as a substitute. They do not diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any condition or disease. Always consult your doctor or mental health professional before applying any advice or opinions expressed during this presentation. Do not discontinue use of medications unless specifically advised by the doctor who prescribed them.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Revealing and Healing 2. I'm Rick Reynolds, and I'm here in Sedona, Arizona with medical intuitive Jason Ward. First off tonight, a big thanks to each and every one of you for taking the time and lending your energy to what we're sure is going to be a healing experience for all of us here tonight. And before we end the call this evening, we'll have a special offer for everybody listening. A chance for you to experience what both Jason and I do at a little lesser rate. And even for those listening to the call tonight, who are listening in recorded time in the future, there's an offer for you too, so keep listening. But what an even better deal for those that are on the call this evening. So let's see who is on the call tonight. If you've ever had a session with me, hit the number 1 on your phone. And if you've ever had a session with Jason, hit the number 2. And if you've never worked with either of us, hit the number 3. And if you've worked with both of us, hit the number 4. All right. Oh, this is great. Lots of people on the call tonight. A lot of people I haven't met before, some new faces, lots of people that have never worked with either of us before. Jason, you're not seeing this, but it's really cool to see all these interesting faces and people that are here. It's going to be a fun evening. So if you haven't worked with us before and haven't experienced our work, this is really going to be a special night, because that's the purpose of tonight's call. It's really to introduce you to our work and to share with you how our work combines to create healing and transformation in a way that neither of us can really do alone. As many of you know, Jason Ward is a world-renowned medical intuitive. He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Network and worked with Dr. Phil, but long before that, I knew him as the man that looked into my mother's body and revealed what she needed to see to get healthy. And since then, I've sent many of my clients, my friends, people I really care about in this world, off to work with Jason because he's the real deal and I trust him, and he's made a tremendous impact on their lives. So, Jason, welcome to this call. Thank you for continuing to do this work and to share your gift with so many people and make such a big difference in the world. So, welcome to the call.
Well, thank you very, very much. I'm absolutely excited to be here. I want to say hello to everybody that's on the phone or listens to this in the future. Just a fantastic evening. The energy feels good, and of course, Rick, you know, I hold you in quite high regard, my friend. So I couldn't imagine wanting to do this with anybody else. I am a medical intuitive, and I've been doing my work basically since I was 13. But I have taken the past 3-4 years of just a pure dedication to my intuitive ability, if you will. It's an absolute pleasure and joy, because when you are able to work with so many different types of folks, it's a learning curve for everybody, because sometimes we always look at things as this general picture that everyone's trying to fit in. And, you know, my belief and how I viewed the body over many years here is that we are all like fingerprints. We all work here just a little bit kind of differently. So one thing may work for somebody, but it's not going to work for all of us. So I really enjoy finding the specific fingerprint or the functions and operations to the body type that I look at. So I'm excited to share a little bit of what I do tonight with everybody, and really look forward to this call. And, you know, like I was saying here a little bit before, is that Rick is just a dear friend of mine. I've sent a lot of my clients over to his direction as well. My wife actually worked with him. He is just hands down a pure heart of gold, if there is ever an example. And I truly believe in his work. I have seen the differences made in people's lives, that it just feels good to know that there's other little light beings, if you will, here on the planet trying to help our fellow brothers and sisters out. So, yeah, Rick, I appreciate it, and I'm going to let you maybe describe a little bit about what you do.
Well, before I get there, just a little bit more for people that don't know what a medical intuitive is, or what it is that you're actually seeing and how this process works for you. Maybe you could explain just briefly how that works.
Oh, absolutely. I call my process body scanning. So it's where I get my mind to dial the person who I'm working with, their body's phone number. Once I get that connection, then I pull up their body and see that almost in a 3D or a holographic image. I'm able to go through specific organs, dig in through the bloodstream, go through lymphatic, look at hormones, neurotransmitters. I pretty much try to go from head to toe with everyone that I work with. And I always like to call my suggestions or recommendations just that, suggestions of recommendations, because I always feel that our bodies are built around more of an organic kind of natural process. They weren't exactly developed to process tons of supplements and artificial areas. So I always try to suggest or recommend things that I feel is a bit more on the dynamic for how that specific body works, but two, kind of go along with how really our bodies, I believe, were designed to break down foods, absorb foods, and so on and so forth. So did that help explain it a little bit further there? Yeah. Okay, good.
I think so. I think we're giving people an idea here. So you're really revealing what's going on in the body, where the imbalances are, and giving them an idea of what to look at and what paths to take that might begin to lead them to healing. And that's kind of where my work picks up, is I take it from the revealing to the healing, and really looking at the core beliefs that lie underneath, that create the stress, that create the sadness, that create negativity, and ultimately lead to illness and disease in the body. You know, back in 2003, I created my own technique for shifting beliefs by using bilateral stimulation. That's stimulating both the right and left sides of the body to stimulate the right and left sides of the brain and bring them into balance. Now, my training is in hypnotherapy, emotional freedom techniques, energy psychology, Reiki, life coaching, but my own technique is all of this plus my own intuitive gifts, and together it's something much more than any of these specific techniques. It's more powerful than any of the individual trainings in this area that I've received. And I started doing this work back in the 2003 after spending 18 years in television news. I used to be a reporter, a producer. I ran a TV news operation, and that career really, I think, scared. I was scaring a lot of people, the nature of the news business, watch or you might die kind of thing. And I kind of see my work now as the opposite in many ways. It's a karmic justice here, in that I'm leading people out of fear and out of the false beliefs and helping them really get that who they really are is absolutely safe at all times, and helping people be able to have a sense of peace in their bodies and in their minds, no matter what the circumstances of their life actually are. Well, it's one thing for us to talk about what we do. It's often much more powerful to have those that we've worked with share a little of their experience with us. So would any of Jason's clients, we'll start with his clients first, be interested in sharing just briefly what your experience was in working with Jason so that others might have a better understanding of the sort of work that he does and what he's actually capable of doing? Hit the number 1 on your phone if you'd like to share a bit about your experience with Jason. And this would really help those that haven't yet experienced his work so that they have a better idea of what it is that he does. So hit the number 1 if you'd be willing to share. And good. We have a hand up. So, Kelly. Kelly, welcome to the call. You raised your hand. Would you like to share a bit about your experience with Jason?
I actually accidentally hit the button where I was trying to pick up the
Well, there are no accidents. We'll come back to you, Kelly. Maybe you'll volunteer at some point. So while we wait for someone to step up and tell us a bit about their experience with Jason, I'm just going to see if anyone would be willing to share their experience with me. I see I've got quite a few people that have had sessions with me, and we don't have to dive into the specifics, but if you'd like to share your experience with me, hit the number 2 on your phone. I can call on you. Ani.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for raising your hand, Ani.
I do. Okay, yeah. Actually, when you offered to do a session with me, I really didn't think you were going to find anything that was terribly blocking me moving forward. And yet, you did. And basically, you took me back to where this belief was about. And when we did that, we were actually able to take the power from that belief to really see that it was a belief that was not necessarily true, and it was keeping me from doing my own work. And since doing that with you, I've been doing nothing but moving forward and doing my own work.
Awesome. And thank you, Ani. I've watched that shift in you and seen just amazing. Your life is unfolding in such magical ways, and it was a pleasure to play even a small part in helping that unfold for you. So I'm so grateful that you were willing to share tonight. And I'm going to ask, yeah.
I don't mind sharing what the belief system was, because I think a lot of people want to do their own work. My belief system at the time was that you had to have money to make money. So because I was never working in a full-time job over the last few years, I seemed to never have the money to make money. And when, like I said, when you took me back in time, not to where this began, I also realized many examples of people around me at that time that did go into business for themselves and didn't have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. So it unraveled itself, just taking back, okay, where did this come from? I didn't realize I was hanging on to something that was totally an untruth.
Exactly. And now you are open to receiving all this abundance.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right, just asking one more time if anybody who's worked with Jason would be willing to share a little bit of their experience with him. And good, I've got a hand up. So, Patricia, thank you for raising your hand.
Well, you're welcome. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hi, Patricia. How are you?
Well, I'm great. And, I heard you ask, and I thought, well, I'm just going to pop in here because I had such a phenomenal experience with Jason and his knowledge that I referred both my children to make sure and connect up with him and have a reading with him as well. But, Jason, I'll never forget what you pinpointed for me specifically, and the protocols that you gave me helped me tremendously as well. But the one thing that really clicked for me when when you scanned my body was the time when you asked me if I was eating a lot of spices. And previously to that, I'd been to another Ayurvedic doctor who had prescribed, I was taking like 60 spice pills a day.
Yeah.
and you know, I was uncomfortable with it. I didn't feel right about it for about 3 months, but you know, I didn't know. And so when Jason sat down, he said, "My God, what are you eating?" And I said, "Well," he goes, "All I see is spices in your liver. They're built up, and it's causing this and this and this." And it just really nailed me. I thought, this guy can really tell what he's looking at. So yeah, so you were really you really nailed it.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Patricia. That means a lot to me. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. No, it was a great reading all around, and the key is to just continue with the advice that you share, and to keep coming back for checkups.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's very funny, Patricia, because I was, me and Rick were talking about this just the other day as I was telling Rick, I said, you know, we really need to start looking at our bodies kind of like how we look at our cars and our plants and our animals, and we need to do those tune-ups. We need to do those spring cleanings. And especially with 2013 around the corner, I always try to look at it as my, you know, New Year's revolution. It's like, okay, I'm not going to use a microwave for 1 year. I always do something that, you know, 2 months into it, I go, oh my goodness, what did I do? You're absolutely right. When you talk about checks-up and tune-ups, even if we feel like we're 100%, you know, going there, that sometimes there's just some things that kind of sit and hold in the body, and I think hindsight is never fun for anyone. So if you can kind of nip things in the bud early and get things addressed, that really does prevent a future ordeal with anything, you know?
Yeah, more preventative.
Absolutely. That is half the key. We are our best insurance policies.
Boy, that's the truth.
Absolutely. Being on the side of prevention is the best way to go. So, but no, Patricia, thank you for sharing that. And, of course, my love to you and your family. And just thank you very much for sharing your experience. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Jason. Anybody should get on the phone and give you a call immediately, because you're very good at what you do, and I'm very, very fortunate and blessed to have found you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
So let's move forward with some revealing and healing. So before we ask for volunteers, and we're going to do that in just a second here, I want to remind everybody kind of what they are in for when you decide to go ahead and volunteer. First off, remember that this is a public call. It's being recorded. It will be shared with lots and lots of people. We've had over 1,000 people listen to the last call that we did that we know of, and maybe more. So it's important that you know when you volunteer that we are unable to keep your confidentiality. We know that health challenges can be a sensitive area, and yet for Jason's work to be most effective, it's really best that he not attempt to edit his process. He'll do it somewhat. He won't say anything too embarrassing, but his consciousness is really going to be focused in on you and letting you know what's going on in your body. So if you choose to volunteer, you do so at your own risk, and we trust that everything will unfold for everyone's greatest good here. There's no telling where this work is going to go. And especially with me, there's no telling where we might go tonight. And I encourage you to be as open as you can possibly be and share what you need to share, but keep in mind that you are in a public forum. And when we do this work in public, it offers a greater chance for you to heal. And as you heal and shift a core belief, you'll find that everyone on the call will shift something, that this work ripples out. So even if you don't have a chance to volunteer and work with us one-on-one tonight, do stay on the call, because there will be something here for you. It can be quite profound we can have absolutely amazing shifts and do. And that's the feedback that we've got from people that have been listening to these calls. So, Jason, could you talk a bit first about who you'd like to hear from tonight, and then we'll ask for some volunteers.
Oh, absolutely. I'm open to hear from anybody that would love to raise their hand. I think that since obviously we don't have 5 or 6 hours here for me to go into full in depth, it would possibly be just a little bit more helpful to get as many people in as possible, that if maybe they have a question or a specific area or really want me to hone into some issue they may have going on, it kind of eliminates me having to kind of nitpick around and go, ooh, I don't know if that's a sensitive topic or subject to bring up that may not be embarrassing to some, but it may be embarrassing to others, like with bowel movement cases and so forth. Sometimes that's a sensitive ordeal. So I just want to make sure I'm not breaking into any uncomfort zones, for one, and for two, I think it would help allow me to kind of get to more than just a couple people. We could actually maybe get through quite a bit tonight. So that would be my only little forethought there before we get started.
All right, so if you're wanting to volunteer, hit the number 1 on your phone, and we'll come talk to you. And we're going to start revealing.
And I think it's awesome that I should probably let folks know is that Rick is there in front of the computer, but I do all my work and everything in the middle of the Red Rocks here in Sedona, so I'm actually in the middle of nature and trees and moonlight, so I'm not able to see who's raising hands or anything like that. So just thought I'd share that little tidbit.
Okay, so the first person we're going to go to is Adriana. Adriana, welcome to the call.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, actually.
Hi.
I'm in Miami, so it's already late here.
Oh, yeah, you're a good 2 hours ahead, correct?
Yes.
Ah. So, do you have a question for either one of us, or anything that you?
I just believe in preventative healing, and I don't have anything. The only question I have is, can you heal somebody that is not willing to cooperate? Somebody who is not present and is having a little issue?
I apologize, Adrian. I don't know if I quite understood that question. Are we able to heal somebody that? Could you just say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Like it's not present right here, but it has having already some healthy issues. I want to.
Oh, I see. So if someone's not with you, but they're in another area or city or town, can we still work with them or be able to, for me, for example, pull them up?
Exactly.
Yes, I definitely. I just need to know first, last name, and their exact location. That's what helps me the most.
Okay.
And is there a specific question, like the routine that they're on is helping them, or they're going backwards, or what are you hoping to receive?
For that person or for me?
Well, if you had a question for a friend or a family member that was not with you, or for yourself, whatever you would like to ask.
Well, let's say for me that I'm here present, I just want to know if there's any preventative thing that I should be doing for my body and my health.
Preventative care. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do here is give me just 2 seconds. That's basically just a little bit of time where I need to just get you dialed up, okay? And then let me just get 2 seconds to kind of dig around there for a second, and then I'll let you know what I see and maybe hit on some good advice as far as prevention goes. Does that sound good?
Right.
Okay, 2 seconds. Okay. Get pulled up here. Like I said, just 2 seconds. Let me kind of just take a little sneak peek through some things. Okay. First little thing here that I would like to pinpoint on is that we have these little flaps that open and close on our heart, okay? And those little flaps are a little bit on that sticky side, okay? They're just a little bit on the tacky side, which is telling me somehow we're not hydrating that heart fully, okay? And then the other thing here with the heart is that I don't know if you take short breaths throughout your day or just catch yourself short breathing, but it does seem like we've got just a little bit of lack of that oxygen ratio hitting into the heart. So as far as a preventative care, I would really probably want to take a little time and address the heart here. So when I go down to kidneys, they seem to function pretty good there. I don't see a whole lot of sludge sitting at the bottom. Liver seems to flush. Okay, I do see a little bit of dehydration signs there in that lower intestine. How much water are you getting in a day?
No, probably 8 or 10 glasses.
8 or 10 glasses, okay. And do you just drink water? Do you drink teas or coffees or juices or anything else?
Well, I have my coffee in the morning, of course, and a lot of water in between the day.
Okay, perfect. Now, when you drink all this water, do you still feel thirsty? Do you ever feel signs of dehydration?
I feel thirsty very often, yeah.
Okay. You know, a couple of little things here is that water is a funny little bird. It's kind of like sugar and sodium, okay? If we have too much of anything, it can turn into a bad thing, okay? And too little of some things turns into bad things. And I don't necessarily feel like we're getting too much water in a sense, but I am kind of wondering here if we're not having heavier parts of our day of water intake, and then kind of at other parts of our day having that lighter intake and not having this real smooth intake of water throughout the day. That would be one little suggestion. The second little suggestion would be here is that I'm a huge fan. Almost everyone that's worked with me has probably gotten the suggestion of adding lemons to water.
Okay.
One of the more common traits that I see is where a system will run acidic. Okay, your liver bile actually looks pretty darn good. Stomach bile is a little bit elevated in the pH level, so it just tends to run a little bit acidic. But when I get to that small intestine, I just see a lot of acidic properties there, which is kind of making me really feel like this is one of our areas of the body just not absorbing the water fully or kind of putting it to other areas here. So by just simply throwing lemons in your water, I think would be fantastic. And then two, I would like to bump up your natural sodiums a little bit. When I go through your blood, those sodium levels just seem to be a bit on the low side to me, okay? And with sodium, you know, to me it's two different ball games here. We have table salt, which I think is absolutely horrid, and then we have others like Himalayan pink salt or sea salt. Celery is really high in a natural sodium. And what we do is if we can encourage bumping up sodium a little bit, we can encourage the body to want to absorb or to take on more of the water that we're getting in. I'd have to say your body probably only takes in maybe 65 to 70% of the water that we're getting in there. And then the only other little suggestion here, as far as when I look at the heart and kind of go back to the bloodstream, I would be an awful big fan of cayenne pepper, even if it was just a quarter a teaspoon a day. Put it into a smoothie or a shake or however you can get it down. But cayenne pepper is amazing for the digestive system, but it's even more phenomenal for keeping our blood at a very nice, not too thick, not too thin, keeps it just a nice, clean, perfect level. But what it'll really do, and what I've seen through my past experience, is it does help kind of go in there and clean up the heart a little bit. You got a tiny little bit of plaque buildup in some little areas around the heart there. Nothing major or anything to worry about, but I really would encourage just a light little dosage of that cayenne pepper, whether it's a couple times a week or if we can get a little bit in each day. And then with the oxygen, breathing exercises I always think is fantastic for everybody. Sometimes if we're on our computer or if we're at work or reading a book or whatever it is, sometimes we take shorter breaths or we're not really getting deep breaths in and we don't even really know it or kind of hits us there. So, breathing exercises like focusing the long, slow, deep breaths in and out for a good 2-3 minute period. And then also, one of my favorite breathing exercises is what I call force breathing. So when we are during an activity, whether it's biking, dancing, CrossFit, at the gym, whatever it is activity-wise, we've got that heart rate elevated a little bit and we're breathing a little heavier. We take a big old breath in, we hold it for 2 to 3 seconds, and then we blow it out with a little bit of force, as if we're trying to blow up a balloon. That helps regulate those lungs and taking in that oxygen, and it also helps regulate the rate of oxygen that gets into the lower valve of that heart. So I hope that helps, and I hope that sheds a little bit of light in some areas, but those are just some suggestions that I would recommend you look into a little bit.
Excellent. Nothing on the the word was out of on my hormones and stuff like that.
Well, we'll take a little peek here at your hormones, and I'll tell you what I see. Estrogen sit a little low. We got 2 or 3 estrogens that just hover below that halfway mark where we should be. Testosterone seems to be about 2 or 3 points low. And progesterone, it fluctuates there. I kind of see where it would go, raise itself a little higher than what it should, and then drop back down lower than it should. So, let's go look at your adrenals for a second. Okay, our adrenals sit on top of our kidneys, and they're one of our big production factories for hormones. But adrenals are also kind of like what I like to call our emotional punching bag. So whether it's a relationship we're in or a friendship or our job or the traffic on the way to work, stresses and things that kind of affect us, generally that those adrenals take the brunt of it. Your adrenals, I mean, they run just a shade bit slow, but I'm not convinced that would cause the fluctuation of hormones. Now, when I go to your pituitary, that's where I see a little slowdown. Okay. So on the left bottom portion of your pituitary gland, we do start to shrivel down a little bit, where once again, that's a pretty big sign to me. Your body isn't taking all that water that you're drinking in, for one, and for two, that really, really also makes me think of 2 things that we need to start feeding your brain a bit more efficiently. One is that sodium, like I was talking about, okay? And then 2, fatty acids, omega-3s, fish oils. Those are absolutely crucial, okay? So with sodium now, do you use table salt? Are you using sea salt? How are you getting your sodium in?
Sea salt, basically, yeah.
Sea salt, okay. And do you use it liberally? Do you tend to watch the amount you put on? How often are you putting it on your food?
Yeah, probably every day, a pinch or two. I'm not a very salty person, but I like things spicy too.
You like things spicy? Oh, good. Well, cayenne pepper will be right up your alley. Fantastic. Well, I would really like to encourage you to try to bump up that sea salt intake at least a half a teaspoon, okay? A bit more than what you're doing. The brain really likes to feed a lot off of sodium, and ironically, you know, each person I look at it differently, but your pituitary really does like its daily dosage of sodium here, so we want to make sure we bump that sodium up where it really needs to be. And of course, like I was saying, celery is another amazing form of a natural, safe sodium, so even if you didn't want to bump it up a half a teaspoon, if we bumped it up a little bit more and maybe threw in a little bit more celery throughout our daily diet, I think that would work just as well. But, you know, I personally wouldn't. I don't think that you're anywhere in a place where we need hormone replacements, okay, or anything like that, like we need to go in and do anything too extreme. I really would like to focus a little bit more of kind of pumping up and nurturing, taking care of that pituitary gland. That, in my opinion, is the trick here. That's the one we need to take care of and nurture just a little bit here. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you for your question. I appreciate it.
All right.
And Adriana, I just would ask you to see if there's an emotional component to any of this that you're aware of. Just checking in and seeing if are there fears that come up or anything that has you catching your breath?
Well, I work with little kids, so maybe they just keep me very busy, and sometimes I have to catch my breath. 18 at a time, so yeah, they definitely keep you busy.
Yeah, so they're keeping you busy. I just trying to sense into the emotion, because it feels, just as you were speaking and as he was looking into your heart and seeing a little bit of plaque there, and that was the first place that he was drawn, and then mentioned the breath, I just sensed some fear and was wondering if there's any fear that you're working with that involves issues of the heart, issues of love.
Well, no, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, that was just where I was called to take a look, and you know that might be something to consider and look at, or it might be nothing at all. But just throwing it out there as a possibility. And with the sea salt, one thing that I've done for years with sea salt that's been very powerful is placing a pinch under the tongue before taking water, and just doing that throughout the day. It makes it easy to get that whole half a teaspoon in rather than all at once. Okay.
Oh yeah, well yeah, good point, Rick. I was really suggesting maybe just a little bit of that half a teaspoon, spreading it out throughout the day over the foods instead of trying to swallow it down at once. I'm glad you said that. Wanted to make sure that was clear, because that can be pretty gnarly to chase down a half a teaspoon of sea salt.
Right.
And Rick, I think what you were advising with Adriana there, I think is fantastic, because through me and Rick's had speaking engagements, and we've done several things together, and we've had some folks where I've seen things and Rick goes, wow, I'm really picking up on this, and then I generally get the email or phone call 2 days later and go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think of this. But when Rick mentioned that, it was just the next night that I woke up and said, oh my Lord, I had my heart broken, or something along those lines, and go, I wish I would have thought of that. So Adriana, well, and the good part about it is, Adriana, is that this will allow you to kind of reflect a little bit, and I wouldn't be shocked if maybe something pops to you here in no time, and you go, oh, that's something maybe stuck in the closet a little while.
Yeah, and keep listening to the call, because I'm sure something might come up that might shift whatever it was that I was picking up. So let's go ahead and call on another volunteer. Thank you so much, Adriana. And we're going to call on Melissa. Melissa, go ahead and ask a question.
Hi, Jason. I had an appointment with you 3 or 4 months ago, and I just want to thank you because it was absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love your work, and I've been on the Gabatrol every night for sleep, and that has helped a lot. And
nice.
Also grapeseed extract and the omega-3s, and they've definitely helped a lot. And I'm still kind of dealing with some health issues.
Okay.
Since after you, I was diagnosed with leaky gut syndrome, autoimmune disease, and some fungus inside my digestive system and parasites. And so we've been treating all of that, but I've been having kind of these chronic sinus infections in my ears and still dealing with the vertigo and dizziness. So I was just seeing if there's been any kind of changes. We've done a lot of changes with my diet, and we came forward a lot, but we're still not 100%.
Not 100%. Okay. Well, you know how I work here, Melissa. So let me get you dialed up and let's see what's going on here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Melissa. Let's go. Peek here. That liver has seen a few rodeos.
Yeah.
My goodness. It's got a bit of storage in that liver there. When I pick through it, it looks like some kind of antibiotic of some form. Definitely looks more pharmaceutical grade to me. For parasites, did they put you on an antibiotic, or have they run any antibiotics through your system?
No, I haven't been on any kind of antibiotics. I'm on an herbal supplement for the parasites.
Herbal supplement. Were you put on any other medications to address anything else, like pharmaceutical-wise?
No, it's all been pretty much all herbs, and I'm working with a natural doctor.
Interesting. Because what I see in there looks an awful like what Z-Paks look like to me. I mean, it's awful darn close there.
Wow.
That is interesting. That liver is just turning quite acidic there.
I'm on a lot of supplements every day for the my immune system, and then I was on quite a few when I was doing the leaky gut syndrome diet, and some for my hormones. It's a lot of supplements.
Yeah, no doubt. I can understand that. When we see that a liver turn that acidic, it's pretty much trying to do all it can to help. You know, our liver is our body's filter, so it does what it can to break things down and help kind of disperse here. But, man, I really would like to clean house on that liver because it is holding on to quite a bit there. Got a lot of streaking there throughout the intestines, so that's a wild ordeal there. And then, you know, what I do notice the most here, which jumps out to me, is those white blood cells in your lymphatic, they're a little bit on the low side. Our lymphatic is 2 to 3 times the size of our vascular system, except for our vascular system has a heart as a pump, okay? And our lymphatic system, its only pump is when we move our muscles here. And when I get to your groin, especially behind the ears, that lymphatic just gets almost to a standstill as far as its movement. Now, lymphatic is this.
And, they've been on and off draining for quite some time.
Yeah. The lymphatic is the secondary. It's a big part of our immune system here. So that little immune there in that lower intestine of yours, it's been on the on position for an awful long time. And sorry here, Melissa, I'm not spacing out on you. I'm just trying to go to as many places as I can here with you on the phone. You must have knocked out parasites, because I really don't see any parasites throughout the intestinal tract or colon. But you have an awful lot of streaking going on. Definitely looks like some form of an infection through that lymphatic too, because those inner ears pull a lot of water. That would make a bit of sense, trying to help force that lymphatic. So, okay. Are you familiar with kefir, Melissa?
With kefir?
Yes. You are or you're not? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not.
Okay. Kefir is an amazing form of a natural probiotic. Okay. So, a lot of systems, it's kind of like most over-the-counter probiotics do just fine, but seeing that liver get worked as hard as it does and all the streaking through your intestines there, kefir is one of the most phenomenal ways to help kind of rebuild and get our digestive system a bit in order and in track. It's more of a raw kefir, is to be really specific, would be the type I would want you to look for there. And the trick with it is that we'd only do about 3 to 4 ounces, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. We don't want to do it daily, and we don't want to do too much. Kefir tastes absolutely amazing. It can get quite addicting, but it does have a little high sugar and a little high calories. That's why I'm wanting to kind of give you a little bit more of an infant dose here. But that's one area that I would really like to see these intestines start to rebuild a bit quicker, give them a little break. But two, kefir is one of my favorite ways to want to go after any type of infection or bacterial matter that I see, whether it's in the lymphatic or in the intestinal tract and a kidney. And that kefir is just, gosh, that to me is the way to go. I would seriously want you to investigate that and look that up there. Most stores carry it, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. And then as far as that lymphatic goes, I really, really want to get that groin and behind the ears moving. It should, kind of be like the consistency of a water. So gotta thin that out a little bit here. So behind each ear, Melissa, okay, and then in our groin, all the way from the inside of our knee all the way up till we just can't go higher anymore on our thigh there, is really where I want you to apply that coconut oil, okay, and try to do that almost like a raking motion with your fingers to help get this lymphatic moving just a little bit more efficiently. I love the fact that you done the grapeseed extract deal there, all the antioxidants and things. That's absolutely fantastic. But I really feel like you're got to get something in there help clean us out just a bit.
So apply some like coconut oil. You want it in my ear?
Well, no, what I would like to do is like if we take our pointer and middle finger and even our ring finger or third finger, just dab those 3 fingertips into coconut oil, okay? And then like starting behind each ear as if we're touching the skull, but it's behind the ear. We're basically doing like we're raking leaves, like a raking motion. Okay,
gotcha.
And we're going to help kind of rake that all the way down to the base of our neck. And the same there, kind of in that groin area, we're starting at that inner knee and we're kind of going through the raking motions all the way up through the soft part of our inner thigh, so we just can't go, any higher. The one thing, though, I think would be really kind of crucial is if we could try to do this like when you get out of your shower or out of your bath, because when we raise the body's temperature, that will help naturally thin out that lymphatic a little bit. So it'd be kind of hard to take a shower and get the oil on our fingers and do it in the shower. So maybe when we're done with the shower would be a perfect time to kind of do these little exercises. But a good 5 or 10 minutes when you're done with that, definitely get down a glass of water, okay? Because that's really what we want to help promote the flushing and getting those things moving. But there's something here that's just grabbing my attention that we need to throw into the lymphatic that's just not there. I mean, I apologize, Melissa. I'm racking my little brain here going, what is it that we're missing? Got our D's, got our C's, A's and K's and E's. Okay, all that's in there. Okay. It's almost like and I'm probably saying this wrong. My gosh, I just wrote a little thing about this the other day. But calypsin, it's actually the one fantastic part about the cayenne pepper. I wrote a little deal. Someone's having a heart attack. We put cayenne pepper in water and get it down their throat immediately. It helps kind of control our cardiovascular without really putting the heart under pressure. It doesn't really mess with our heart. But one of the things about that is that it really does like to go after and kind of break up solids. So kind of if we had an oily cooking pan and we were to drop a drop of Dial soap or dishwashing soap onto that pan, everything starts to bust open and kind of split in its own sections. And that's really what I'm trying to achieve there in the lymphatic. And cayenne's really the only way to get that down in order to receive that. So, cayenne's kind of finicky with people, especially if we don't like spices. They offer tablets and all that good stuff out there, but, kind of getting it in, whether it's smoothie or oatmeal, however we can get down that cayenne, I think would be a pretty darn good idea. Now, as far as the ears go, okay, you got a lot of fluid holding in those inner ears. I would really want you to try to do a drop of hydrogen peroxide in each ear. That's really a safe way to address the ears. I mean, doing a ear candle and all that, I think is a little bit in the wrong direction there. But I want to try to dry out that inner ear and try to pull a little bit. So like a drop of hydrogen peroxide in each ear. And again, we'd only want to do that once a week because wax in our ear is super important. And I know with my little boys, I used to get into the habit of like, I want to make sure those ears are nice and clean. And then the more I do my work, I'm like, wow, that wax really plays a pretty crucial role. So we walk a fine line of not wanting to take away all that wax, but at the same time try to help promote the drying a little bit. So that's definitely how I'd want to kind of go after the ears there just a little bit. And trying to find some form of a drying agent, similar to what a Sudafed would do. Okay, so like with those that have a lot of vertigo or water in their ears, I try to encourage them to get a Sudafed in pretty much immediately, because that really does dry up those inner ears and sinuses. But, you know, the Sudafed, with all the work your liver's done and all the great strides you've taken to obviously keep your blood and diet clean as possible here, Sudafed just is in the wrong part of the field, but same game. You know, there's a product called Flavanox, and I want you to look that up, because that is all plants. It's an all kind of natural product there, but it really is a drying agent, very similar to kind of what Sudafed does, just a lot healthier for us and none of the lingering effects. And if you could look up Flavanox, Flavinox. I think that's really the way to go here. I actually feel quite good about that. I think that would be fantastic. And that should, very quickly start taking away that vertigo. So those are my suggestions, Melissa, and I definitely wish I had more time here to go through my normal 2-hour ordeal with you, but send me an email after this phone conference, okay? And maybe I can spend a little bit more time with you and see what else we need to adjust.
Perfect. Thank you so much, as always.
You're very welcome, Melissa. And do you think that working with Rick would be positive? It's just something telling me I think that there's something there that would be pretty amazing as far as helping this body heal a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I would ask you, Melissa, if you're willing, what is it that is going on with you emotionally? What's bugging you?
I recently started seeing a therapist a couple of weeks ago that was recommended by my doctor to kind of get down into more of the emotional part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely have a tendency to mind race on in certain situations, or somebody's made a not friendly comment, and so working on that. I did kind of grow up in an emotional abusive situation, not terrible, but some. And so we're working on that as well. So if you haven't, I do your cleansing toxic free thing, and that has been absolutely amazing and very helpful.
Oh, great. Well, what I'm picking up on is a belief that might help you is this idea that other people's opinions are simply information about other people and no more than that. If you think inside about that for a moment, really feel how that idea feels and sits. Where 0 is no truth at all and 10 is completely true, how true does that concept that other people's opinions are simply information about them and mean nothing about me?
Yeah, I guess taking things personally. So yes.
Yeah, so it feels like you're taking things personally.
0 is at the low end and 10 is at the high end.
So 0 would be no belief that other people's opinions, are just about other people. But 10 would be, oh yeah, it's all about other people and it's not about me. So if it's feeling like it's about you, it might be more like a 2 or a 3 on that scale. And if you can really hear other people's opinions and say, wow, that's interesting. I want, and thank you for sharing who you are with me, that would be a 10.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, probably a 4 to 5.
4 to 5. Okay, great. So we're going to work a process here, and everybody on the call can join us in this. And as we all carry around some aspect of this really sets in for most of my clients in their teenage years or preteen, when you start really worrying about the opinions of other people more than you've ever have in your life. It's probably the biggest time. So we all carry around a piece of this, and we can work it together. What we're going to do is stimulate your right and your left brain by taking your right hand and tapping it against the right thigh, and then the left hand to the left thigh. So right to right, left to left. And everyone can just kind of do this back and forth, back and forth. And this, we're just going to do this as we work this process to light up the whole brain, to get your right brain and your left brain communicating, to get your logical mind communicating with your emotional mind. And as we do this and go back and forth, I want you to just close your eyes and really feel this, and maybe even follow that tap back and forth with your eyes. And as you do that, just ask yourself in a really deep way, well, what stops me from really believing that other people's opinions is simply information about other people? How is it that I learned to take other people's opinions so seriously? And just see whatever pops up. Share whatever comes to mind.
Probably my mom was very much that way.
Okay. So it's right back to your mother being very much that way, concerned about your mother's concern about the opinions of other people. So imagine that you have a scrapbook in front of you, and on the cover of the scrapbook it says, Mom's worried about what other people think. And inside you open that up, and there are all the memories of times with your mother in which that was true, and ways in which she taught you to be worried or concerned about the opinions of others. And as you start going through these, you'll find in this scrapbook a memory that has a strong emotional pull. It might even have some pain associated with it. And I want you to go right to that memory and simply share whatever is there.
I don't really remember a lot of specific times that stand out.
Okay. So what is it that you do remember?
I just remember always, like, if we were out doing things for friends or projects or out with the horses, it almost happened on like a monthly basis. So, I mean, at least 2 to 3 times a month that somebody would make a comment, and she kind of wouldn't say anything during that person or around that person, but would come home and definitely hone on it with the mind racing and all that kind of stuff. And growing up, I guess I kind of ignored it, but now that I'm older, I find myself almost following in some of those same pathways.
Yeah. So I just want you to use your imagination here. We're not trying to be accurate as to what exactly happened, but you can just pick from all the times that this happened, and you know it happens several times a month, and there's so many. You can just combine them all into an experience and use your imagination. This doesn't, again, have to be accurate, but an experience in your mind. Just picture it of a time in which this happened, in which somebody said something when you were out and about, and on the way home, your mother just started obsessing about it and speaking her mental chatter out loud and her concern over it. And remember what that was like, and just tap back and forth as you're doing this, right and left, right and left, and call your attention back and forth and be right there with it. Feel what it was like. Remember how that felt in your body to hear your mother do this and act this way, and remember the thoughts that went through your head. Remember how you made sense of this behavior. What did you start to tell yourself? Did you start to worry about what others think? Just notice that point where you took on her fear about the opinions of others. And when you're ready, see the little girl that you were at that time, that you were really experiencing this. And as you look at her, having all those feelings and thinking all those thoughts, what do you notice about her?
She was kind of quiet.
Yeah.
Did a lot of listening, not much talking.
Mm-hmm. This quiet little girl kind of soaking it all up like a sponge, taking all this in and really feeling and thinking it. And as you look at her, she becomes aware of you looking at her. And what do you do? What do you say to her? What do you want her to know about what she's been hearing and seeing?
To please stop and ignore it and don't feed into it.
And how does she respond? Does she believe you? Does she stop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So just take that in and feel what that feels like to be the little one, just letting it go, just ignoring it. And now add to this, imagine that there is a third version of you present. This is a future you. This is the you that can clearly see that things other people say that are opinions that sound like they're about you are really full of information about other people. She can clearly see that it's a gift of information, interesting information that means very little about her but tells you a whole story about the person doing the judging. And what would this version of you tell the little girl about the behavior of her mother on that day?
The newer version?
Mm-hmm. The future you.
To not hone into it, don't pay attention to it, and it has nothing directly to do with yourself.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with you. Very good, taking that in. Now imagine that the little one pulls out a photo of her mother from that day and really get a clear picture there of your mother and what she looked like in that way in which she was so worried about the judgments of other people, and you can really see her. And that future you bends over that photograph and sprinkles magic dust on the photo. And as the particles land on the photograph, that woman in the photo, your mother, grows younger and younger. You see your mother as a young woman. Now imagine your mother as a teenager. See what she looks like. Now imagine her as a girl. Now imagine her as just a little girl. And when you see your mother as a little girl, what do you notice about her? What is she like?
Probably scared, probably on the quiet side as well. I know she grew up with an alcoholic family. She probably didn't have much to say either, or wasn't allowed to say her opinion.
Yeah. So what is she really needing? What does this little one need?
She needs to be told that everything's going to be okay, and that it's okay to talk about your problems and be able to communicate with other people.
So imagine that into this scene where you see your mother as a child come two enlightened beings to be her parents. A new mother and father. They might look like her mother and father, they might not, but these are ideal parents. And they begin filling her with unconditional love. And they really value everything that she says. They listen to her so intently. They want to know her opinions and her feelings, and they pay close attention to her. And they really help her feel just wonderful about herself. and she always has their attention, and she always feels loved. There's nothing that she can do to stop that flow of unconditional love. How is she different as a child getting that?
She's happy. She's able to communicate with people the way she feels, not take judgment, not in what other people say.
Yeah. So imagine your mother growing up this way, continuing to do that, and her parents really teaching her and showing her how the opinions of other little kids show all the insecurities of those little kids. And how when somebody points out something about the way she's dressed, they're trying to avoid everyone looking at how they're dressed. And she begins really seeing how everybody's opinions are totally about themselves and not about the person they're judging. And that just really sinks in for your mother, and you see her growing up that way, and you see her as a teenager again, making different choices with her life, and as a young woman making different choices. And then as your mother, and you see her as your mother, and you hear the judgments of people, and watch now how your mother reacts. And listen, what does she say on that ride home this time?
She doesn't read into it or discuss with her children her feelings on what was said. She just ends it.
Yeah, it's such not a big deal.
Exactly.
She's not even thinking about it. She's just filling you with love and attention on that drive home. She wants to know what's going on in your life and interested in you. Just imagine what that would have been like. And if this mother raised by enlightened beings who is really healed around all this, were to tell you something that your mother couldn't tell you, what might that be?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
If this healed mother raised by enlightened parents, were to talk to you right now and tell you something that your mother never told you or wasn't able to tell you, what would she tell you, this enlightened mother?
That not to take judgments of what other people say or take anything personally, and it has to do with them, not yourself.
Yeah.
The reflection of.
Right. It's a projection. They're projecting themselves onto you. Imagine her telling you that. Imagine her showing you that. Imagine all the little ways in your childhood in which that would have been drilled into you. The fun you might have had in playing with other people's interesting judgments and opinions and figuring out who that person was by how they judged you, and just having fun with it. Imagine it almost being a little game you'd play with your mother when people judged, and not taking it seriously or personally at all, just how that would have felt that whole time. And when you're ready, what would your mother tell you about this healed version of your mother, tell you about the woman that you did experience as a mother, the one that was obsessing over the opinions of others?
What would the new mother say about my current?
About the old mother, yeah.
About the old mother?
Uh-huh.
Not to read into things or obsess or feed into what others say.
Yeah, and she'd probably let you know that the mother that you did experience just didn't know these things, or she would have taught you these things. And that if her parents had taught her, she would have taught you. And that's true of all of us. When we know better, we do better. And just giving you an opportunity to just hold that space of compassion for your mother and what she went through. And just really consider now, who is it that is concerned about the opinions of others, really, is that really you or is that your mother?
Probably my mother.
Yeah. So just allow that to separate now. Begin recognizing how much of those feelings, how much of allowing others to bug you is really your mother and not really who you really are. Because who you were born to be, the you that existed before you were born knew this truth and would never be upset by the opinions of other people. So you might just simply tap into the true you, who you really are, and begin to feel that. And as you do, I want you to consider this idea again and tell me how true it is on that scale of 0 to 10. Other people's opinions are simply information about other people and mean nothing about me. How true does that feel now?
Really like a 9.
Awesome. Yay. Well, has this been of help for you?
Definitely a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And this is something we can all use and remember. If anyone else on the call had a shift like that, congratulations, because I think we all carry around a piece of this. And now just notice the next time somebody judges anybody, you're going to be taking it differently. It's really beautiful. And Melissa, thank you so much for volunteering. And as I think about, this idea of parasites in your body is what got me as bugging you. You actually got them inside you, and now they're gone. So now maybe they cannot come back, and the congestion that in your lymphatic system might ease up a bit in releasing the opinions of others. So keep us posted. Let us know how it goes. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right, let's call on Kelly has her hand up, and we went to her by mistake earlier, but this time I bet she really wants her hand up. Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Yeah, I was actually moving my phone out of the way and accidentally hit the number 1 earlier, but this time it was on purpose.
Okay, good.
Since a very, very young age, since about 12, 13 years old, I've had a lot of facial hair under my chin. I've been tested for everything. I'm 39 years old now, and I still have the problem. I've had laser treatment. I've tried the prescriptions for minimizing facial hair growth, how quickly it grows in, and nothing seems to work. Even after the laser treatment, it's grown back in. I could probably grow a full beard for November.
Wow.
And everything I've tried, I have no idea. I mean, I feel great. I was overweight as a very young child, healthy weight throughout my teen years, and then overweight again, and I'm now moving towards the healthy range. I'm, happy, but everything I've tried, I still have that darned hair.
Absolutely, yeah, and that can be quite a frustrating ordeal, especially it sounds like you've tried just about everything out there. That seemed like you've left too many stones unturned, so I know that can be a very frustrating ordeal to go through. So, okay, let me get you pulled up here, Kelly, okay? And just let me see a few little areas here I'm kind of curious about, okay? Okay, Kelly, let's see here. I wanted to go to hormones first because I was just curious where your testosterone sits. High testosterone sometimes plays a role, but your hormones seem to sit pretty darn well there. That's definitely not an issue. Let me go down to the thyroid here. Parathyroid runs a little bit quick, but anything that would necessarily play into that role here. Go underneath jaw and chin. Ironically, you do have an awful lot of lymphatic network going through there. Now, is the chin the only place, Kelly? Is there any other areas of the body that you notice maybe grows more hair than others?
Well, I have a lot of hair on my legs, not on my arms though, they're pretty normal, and my upper lip, and I do have a couple of stray dark hairs on my face, but the hair all over my body tends to grow very quickly, and I have a lot of it, but it seems okay everywhere else but on my face.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely. I completely understand that. And I would assume you've had your hormones tested because they look pretty good to me. But you've had them tested in the past year, correct?
Probably about a year and a half ago, yes.
Okay, that's a good time frame. Perfect. Okay, and they all came back looking pretty good at that point too? They
did, yeah. I see a naturopathic doctor, and that was, he does keep on top of that. He tests me every year or two, about every 2 years.
Fantastic. That's really, really good. Okay. And I know a year and a half a while ago there, but do you remember seeing that testosterone slightly elevated at that point? Do you remember anything about the testosterone specifically?
No, he said that it was if I remember correctly, what he did say, it was very, very slightly elevated, but still within normal range.
Okay, just slightly elevated. Okay, perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Because it's pretty much telling me that within a year and a half time frame, that testosterone really didn't budge much. And that's kind of what I'm kind of looking for here, is if I'm ironically just seeing at a time where it's low, but it normally shoots high. But if it's just slightly elevated then that would definitely add up to what I see now. We have our thyroid and our parathyroid. Okay, parathyroid plays a lot with its own specific hormone productions. Okay, and that parathyroid does run a little bit quick, in my opinion. Again, I don't think it's necessarily the culprit or the case or cause here, but it is kind of nice to kind of point out where it runs fast, and not to get off the subject, but it does seem to be reacting to something that's in your diet. Okay, something just doesn't seem to like the thyroid or parathyroid here. And we'll address that here in a second, but to go back to the facial here, see, what's interesting is that you have a lot of lymphatic network that goes right underneath the chin area there, okay, and it obviously wraps down around through the neck and so forth, and it's those, when we get sick, those little lymph nodes in our throat that get swollen and hard and sore, that's kind of like a hub. That's where the lymphatic puts toxins and bad stuff basically through it to sterilize it, push it back out. So you have those there, but what's ironic to me is that you have a lot of little highways and roads of that lymphatic that really networks around gums, behind your respiratory, and really underneath that chin there. And not that I think it's a lymphatic issue, but I think it's something we kind of put that puzzle piece on the table in front of us here, because the lymphatic dumps through two ways, out of our skin and then back into the bloodstream here. And really all around beneath the eyes, okay, kind of if you were to draw a line right from where the hole of your ear would be, the ear canal, drawing a line straight across your face to the other little hole or ear canal, if you will. That's where that lymphatic really seems to purge a lot, okay? And
you know what? Funny thing is I also have along that line about a half a dozen to a dozen long, dark hairs.
Along that line. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because our hair and nails, you know, I'm just doing the math here, Kelly, bear with me, but, you know, our hairs and nails, a lot of that's like dead cells and things, okay, that the body obviously gets rid of, or how it kind of shells out there, and our hairs are like, you know, little tree trunks. That's why if you were to do a hair follicle test, you know, it really does give a pretty appropriate timeline of what's kind of run through your system and what the body disposes of. And because of that hefty, and I mean hefty network of lymphatic, especially from that line down till we get to literally kind of like the esophagus or the thyroid, if you will, of the throat, it's got a lot pushing out there. Basically what I'm looking at here is trying to find a way to maybe help kind of divert those dumping grounds in a sense, okay? Let it go to some other little factories to do the cleaning here. But it looks so genetic disposal to me as I go through the pores. And, you know, one of my little downsides is that I can only get to about the second layer of the skin underneath. And when I try to zoom out from there, things get blurry. And so people say, oh, are you seeing me naked? And I say, oh, no, I see, you know, the blood and your organs and tissues. I definitely don't see you naked there. So as far as getting underneath those layers, okay, of that skin, and that's right, looks genetic disposal to me, but we have a lot of our little pores, okay, and a lot of these little hair follicles that seem to be quite larger, but they're all not uniform. We kind of got a few larger ones here and then a clump of hair follicle little pores that surround it, and then we kind of go over maybe half an inch or an inch, and we've got another similar scenario there. My personal opinion here is the more I watch how your lymphatic absolutely networks and kind of feeds here, your parathyroids and thyroid really seem to pay a little bit of attention to your lymphatic, a little bit differently, I guess, than what I usually see. And also, your testosterone, that really does rule the whole health of, let's say, our skin, those layers of skin, and when the lymphatic purges, it pushes the toxins through. It doesn't quite settle there, but you know, testosterone also works with energy and how we feel, and or gohor there. But the more I look at it,
oh, sorry.
Oh no, please, I'm sorry, Kelly, and sorry here when I try to crunch down my time. I'm trying to hit these major bullet points, but everything else in the body draws my attention, so I apologize. But
no, I was just going to say that's really interesting because from the way I feel, I would have assumed my testosterone was low.
Right. Well, I personally feel that it's more about we need to address that parathyroid of its hormone production. I mean, there's a part of me that says I really wish we could lower that testosterone there just a little bit. And, you know, the way that you feel, or that fatigue or tiredness, if you will, that does have quite a bit to do with your lymphatic there. And it's got a little bit to do because your right kidney functions a bit slower than your left one. And I believe that's affecting that adrenal that's at the top of that, okay? And adrenals, that's kind of another area where we get our energy and we get our oomph there. And when I go through that kidney there, you do have a little bit of sediment. I see some calciums, I see some proteins. Calciums really look like they come from veggies to me, though. It doesn't look like a supplement or anything, but that right adrenal there. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, my reflexologist told me the same thing about my adrenals.
Yeah, and I personally feel that's a key. And, the other area, when I go to your neurotransmitters, your serotonin and melatonin both seem to take a little bit of a dip. When I go kind of scan through the blood really quick, vitamin D, as in dog, does seem to be a bit on the low side, and that's pretty much the eggs to your cake batter for your neurotransmitters and melatonin. So seeing that little bit of a deficiency, if you will, there in the bloodstream, that's kind of perk my attention of going, that's something I would kind of suggest maybe we look at and bump up a little bit more than if we're doing it now or start adding that in. Are you taking a vitamin D at the moment?
I am.
Okay. How many milligrams are you on?
I'm not sure. It's Rick might be able to help us through the isogenic.
Okay.
I'm not sure the total milligrams is probably upwards of 3,000.
3,000. Okay, and that's a daily intake.
Yeah, but I do twice. I take the daily packs twice a day with my dinner. But I will tell you, I work from home, and what that means for me, and I know I need to change this habit, is that I rarely go outside.
Okay, so we just don't get a lot of that sunlight. Okay, well, that's totally understandable. I would really like to bump up that D. Okay, we can get vitamin D through mushrooms. Obviously, the D you're taking now, I would absolutely suggest that you stay on that because we're about 500 to 1,000 shy of where that D should be accounted for in your bloodstream. Okay, so lots of different options. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
I said I love mushrooms.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, to me, like I was saying before, I believe supplements are complementary to what we cannot get out of the foods that we eat. And I always try to prefer to go with kind of a natural fit for the body to want to pull from. Mushrooms definitely have a good vitamin D count. So if you love them, then by all means, I would not shy away from them and throw them in the mix here. Now, the other thing is here, I'm really curious, how are you getting vinegar in your system? Because when I watch a reaction to that parathyroid, there's two things that come to my attention. One, something in the vinegar family just really seems to be kind of poking around in there and agitating things a little bit. And then two, it's definitely a sugar enzyme that stems from a fruit, whether it's a strawberry or a cherry. I mean, it's definitely from somewhere in that ballpark. So do you do strawberries? Do you do cherries, black cherries, red grapes? Like, how are you getting your fruit in?
I don't eat very many fruits outside of isofruits. And also I do have some dried berries once in a while. I live in a very cold climate, so we don't have a lot of local fresh produce at this time of year, probably not until June now. So what I have is served. And that's also why I don't go outside much at this time of year. But
understandable.
I do eat a lot of vinegar, though. I have apple cider vinegar quite regularly, once or twice a day, just to what's in the accelerators. I also, if I do have salads or steamed vegetables or that type of preparation, I usually will do a homemade vinaigrette, usually with a balsamic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense.
I do drink wine, and while that's not vinegar when I'm drinking it, It does turn to vinegar.
Okay, yeah, no, absolutely. The end result there, absolutely. Well, I mean, as far as the dried berries here, okay, and I totally understand with the season and not having that fresh produce selection, that can definitely be kind of a pain in the tail. My first encouragement I would like you to try to find something a little bit differently. Whether it's red apples, dehydrated banana chips, I mean, just something other than the berries, because it's the sugar enzyme that just doesn't seem to be getting along too well, okay? And I would rather rule it out instead of letting this agitation kind of continue to happen. And then down the road, it's kind of, gosh, I wish I would have just known what was the irritants and kind of stripped them out. And then two, vinegar is definitely probably the bigger enemy here when we talk about what affects that thyroid. So I'm okay with apple cider vinegar. It's great for the digestion. And to me, it's kind of a distant cousin in the vinegar family. But as far as distilled or balsamic, when I look at the heart, I actually like wine for you, okay? So that's something that we get more good than we do bad. So I probably wouldn't encourage we stop the wine or anything, but I'd be very, very aware of the amounts of vinegar we get into your system. That's other than apple cider, okay?
Okay.
Now, to kind of get back to our original issue, and I'm sorry, I kind of have the goldfish syndrome. I kind of wake up in a new world every day. But to get back to the original issue, I really feel that parathyroid plays a little bit of a role of the hair growth. I know it seems a little bit odd, but I truly believe that is a player, okay? And then the other side to it is that lymphatic. I'm absolutely convinced that there's no accidents where I see this line going from ear to ear, okay? That from there below all this network, and then you're telling me that's where, a lot of this hair comes in, and I'm starting to think, okay, what I would like to do is try to train or convert your lymphatic to just start using another hub of the body to do a lot of its work, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I do have to share with you that at the age of 8, I had a lump on my neck, just under my right ear, about 1.5 inches below the earlobe. I still have it because it's never been removed. It was determined that it was not dangerous. But it's an inflamed lymphatic node.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, why hasn't anybody else ever told me this before?
Yeah, well, sometimes that's what's difficult is that we go through 1,001 tests and we end up feeling like guinea pigs at the end because everyone says, no, everything looks good, we don't know what to tell you. And you go, but I know there's something wrong because this ain't right. And sometimes we kind of look in areas that may not make a lot of sense or may seem to be an easy rule out, but is actually, the culprit. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people complain of lower back pain, especially men, and I go, oh my God, that's your prostate. We need to go get that checked immediately. So sometimes it's these things that really don't seem connected that really play a big key. And your lymphatic, I'm absolutely convinced, is really one of the culprits here, along with that parathyroid. It's kind of like we got 2 or 3 different areas here. We got to kind of fine tune and tweak.
Okay.
What I would really like to encourage here, okay, is kind of like I was saying before. Our lymphatic only goes in one direction. It's a one-way valve, okay, and the only pump that it truly has is when we move our body or our muscles, and that contraction basically pumps that. Now, I'm not trying to kid you here or fool you and say that, just by moving your lymphatic, all the facial hairs are going to go away and we're not going to see this, but this is one part of it, okay? I really want you to get into some form of a neck stretching, neck movement exercise, okay? So one that I think is pretty good is we try to touch our shoulder to our ear, okay, on each side. Basically what I'm trying to promote is that contraction, okay, of all the muscles within the neck, behind the ears, trying to get everybody involved so we can kind of get things moving, okay? Now, secondly here is that the lymphatic just seems to be, it's all focused in that what area. And so what I want to do is kind of promote let's say, the armpits or upper arms to kind of be that next hub that lymphatic starts to send everybody to. And
I love not sweating.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I've always loved not sweating.
Your underarms are not sweating. Well, that's a pretty good sign that...
I don't sweat at all. Unless it's 120 degrees outside, I don't sweat. It doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah, and to me, that would be a big red flag of a lymphatic issue, okay? Obviously, like I was telling you before, that's kind of how our lymphatic does purge in one area, is through our skin, through our pores, you know? So if we're not sweating, in my opinion, that lymphatic really isn't moving too much out, okay? And to see it all focused in that jaw, I have a strong feeling the chin and neck and all through our sinuses is pretty much where your body's trying to push it all out. And that's what we got to kind of turn around here. So kind of like, I don't want you to do the coconut oil massage like I referred on the last call there, because what I want to do is get the muscles to do the pumping. I don't want to physically start moving things around, especially if you still have that cyst. The last thing we want to do is bust open the gates and let all that stuff flood into your body, and then we're down bedridden for 7 days. We want to slowly get this moving, okay, and kind of get things churning and burning. So with those neck exercises, that's pretty much how we're doing that pumping. Now through the armpits, that's really where I want you to kind of get into that, using our 2 to 3 fingers, dabbing it with coconut oil and doing this raking motion. But what I want you to go in is the direction is towards the chest. So we're starting almost in that upper arm, the inner upper arm, and we're basically raking like we're doing a tiny upside down V through the armpit just till we start hitting that side. Does that make sense of what I'm describing?
Yep. And that's what coconut oil?
Coconut oil, correct. Coconut oil is a great antibacterial disinfectant, and everything we put on our skin, Kelly, absorbs into the body. That's like with people that I say, my gosh, with all the body, glitter and perfumes that we're putting on, would you drink that? Because that's basically, it's ending up in the body anyways. And they go, Lord, no, I'd never drink this stuff. I go, well, why would we put it on our body? So I'm always cautious and careful that what we put on our skin, we really want to absorb into our system. And coconut oil is, in my opinion, one of the most phenomenal things we can put on our skin.
Well, I buy it by the gallon. I don't wear makeup. I don't wear perfume. I just gave up deodorant and antiperspirant.
That's very smart. I'm proud of you. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, you can use that coconut oil.
I don't know when I start sweating again, but we'll see.
Well, you can start using this coconut oil as if it's body lotion, okay? Truly, it is absolutely phenomenal to put on the skin. And this really is going to help starting to kind of open up our pores through that armpit, upper arm area, so that we can start sweating, okay? That's kind of crucial. We definitely need to kind of purge, if you will, or do that sweating. But and have you had your thyroid looked at or parathyroid looked at from the physician?
This is embarrassing to admit this. I worked for a pharmaceutical company for 6 years, and I used to create those tests, the documents that they're written on. I never saw the paperwork that the doctor asked for the tests. He told me he had my thyroid tested. So I never actually saw what tests he actually called for, so I'm not positive about the parathyroid.
You're not positive. Okay. My thing is it does run a little bit quick. Yes, we're going to take away the vinegar, and we're going to start taking out those berries, which should prevent this bit of a agitation that I see and let it slow down a little bit. But I still think it's a good idea, okay, just to see how your testosterone and that parathyroid, those hormones it pumps out, how that interacts with your lymphatic. In my opinion, that would be well worth your time, Kelly, to at least get the thyroid and parathyroid checked out here. I just think that would be a a smart idea. And, kind of avoiding the vinegar and so forth, that's my other step. And then two, your hormones just look too in a good place to me, like I was saying. But the testosterone does seem to sit just a little bit on the high side. Okay, so
that's isotonic.
What's that?
I've actually been. My hormones were not in a good place 2 years ago. It's just or 3 years ago. It's just since I've adopted this new lifestyle that I think they've started to equalize a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. Good job for taking those steps in motion. So, so that's my 2 cents there, Kelly. Does that help answer anything or shed any light on anything for you?
It does. I now have an action plan. I will minimize vinegar in my diet other than the apple cider. I will minimize berries, but eat more bananas, which I've been avoiding, by the way, because I was told they were high in sugar. And I will also talk to my doctor about getting my thyroid and parathyroid tested. And also use the coconut oil.
Yes. That is fantastic, Kelly. Good. That's a good plan. I like it.
I've been taking notes.
Oh, good. I love it. That is absolutely great. So, and thank you very much for your question, Kelly. I appreciate you for taking the time and being on the phone with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help. I really appreciate it. I do have a question for Rick.
Yeah.
With the comment regarding the berries, I'm a little concerned because, I know we're not supposed to focus on product, but you'll know that I cleanse weekly, and one of the big components of the cleanse is berry. And do you recommend that I maybe hold off on that for a little while, or do you think that would be okay to continue with?
Jason, can you look and see what that looks like, if that's the source, the Cleanse for Life that she's taking?
Well, what other sugars are you getting in? I know it sounds like you're on a pretty strict diet here, but are we doing like clover honey, raw honey, agave sweetener? Like, what other forms of sugar do you get in besides?
I have about a quarter teaspoon of clover, or mixed. It's not clover honey. It's mixed wildflower honey a day, about a quarter teaspoon. No sugar, except for maybe once a week I may have about a teaspoon of sugar. I can't drink coffee anymore, so that's kind of limited. That's the only place I drank sugar was in coffee, and it really makes me feel ill, so I don't drink it anymore.
Okay.
So other than that, I'm not adding sugar to my diet. It's just what's already in my food. I cook maybe 80 to 90% of our food, and I don't add sugar to it. So when we eat out, which is about one meal a week, I don't have control over that. That may have additional sugar in it.
Right. No, totally. That's perfect. I just was kind of curious what other than the berry ordeal or the routine that you're on, just how it's for getting it. I mean, just to be honest, and I apologize, I just, when I see something, I can't waver from it. I got to stick to my guns. It really looks like it comes from a berry, to be honest. And if you're not doing any smoothies or taking any additional supplements that derive from fruits, like a grapefruit extract or anything like that, then it really does kind of ponder me here, because the honey, I mean, I don't know. I just don't feel it would be the honey. Those little sugars give off they look a little bit more like a stick man inside of their cell. Unlike where berries, they kind of look a little bit more like a K, but missing the top arm of the K.
And the honey is local. It's grown. It's grown. The bees are raised by a local farmer who practices organic farming practices. His primary crop is blueberries. So he has apple trees, but his primary crop are blueberries. So
this primary crop, okay.
I asked these questions.
Yeah, and so Rick, just because I apologize, I don't, I'm not quite well versed with maybe what she's currently on at the moment, but yeah, exactly.
It's not primarily a berry drink. The berry is a little bit added for flavoring, and it's mostly aloe vera is the core of the drink.
Yeah,
so I'm not getting that that's it. Maybe there's a fruit combination. Are you taking the fruits?
No, I do once in a while, but I haven't lately.
Just once in a while, right? Yeah.
So I Mars Venus, the Mars Venus program in the morning, and then the isoline program in the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. So there's the goji berries in the shakes, in the women's shakes.
Right.
But I literally do not eat fruit outside of what's provided through the isogenics program. At all. I mean, this week, since Monday, I have yogurt, organic, local yogurt, which I am addicted to, and the cows aren't producing milk until next spring, so I'm going to be without. But normally I have fruit-free granola in it, and this week there's been dried berries, but that's only been since Monday. The berries in it are raspberry, strawberry, and blueberry, but very small amount. Less than a quarter.
But it does have dried strawberries in it?
It has dried raspberries and strawberries and blueberries. Yeah,
because I was picking up more from the strawberry. I mean, that's really originally kind of what I was leaning towards. But you said you've only been doing it this week, correct?
Yeah, normally the granola that I make is almond. It doesn't have any berries in it at all.
Okay.
And this because my husband loves it.
Okay. I mean, because I'm getting a snapshot of you right now, okay, I don't know if this is a reaction that's happened 4 or 5 months ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago. To see a reaction with the parathyroid, I time it just a lot differently than other areas. So if I was seeing an inflammation in the liver or a reaction in the bloodstream, I could kind of narrow that down a bit more specifically as far as a timeline, like past 60 days, past 30 days. And with that parathyroid looking a little bit on that agitated side, we want to run a little quicker. I know vinegar plays a majority of that part. That berry does too, and it kind of makes me wonder if maybe this week's disposal to this different, even if it was a little bit of the strawberries in there, it's kind of like someone that was allergic to peanuts. All it takes is just a tiny amount for them to, kind of react. So that's kind of the same guidelines I'm seeing there with strawberries. That's really the one I was leaning towards the most. So quite possibly that is the culprit. And I would unfortunately probably suggest we just don't do that. I just think that's a too strong of a possibility.
I can do that. That's fine.
Okay. So
if I endured laser treatments, I can endure not eating strawberries.
Okay. Well, yeah, and usually strawberries are fantastic for one's thyroid, but I just don't. I'm not getting that with yours. I've seen that a few times, but just strawberries just don't seem to really interact that well. So if that's ironically what you've been having just this week, and it's something new that's been thrown in, my opinion is that's where I would assume we're getting this little agitation from.
Okay.
And Kelly, on the mental, emotional level, what I'm noticing is that all this is associated with an area of your body around your neck, that you've got the thyroid there, you have the chin, you have the cyst, going all the way back since you were 8 years old, something showing up in this area. And that's normally what I see with clients is that when there's a lot of activity around there, it relates to that. For those that know the chakra systems of the body, that's the 5th chakra, and that's all about speaking and hearing your truth.
Yeah. I actually attended a workshop at the Chopra Center, and that is my weakness, is my throat chakra. So, yeah, you're right. right on that.
Okay. Yeah. So the belief there, just checking in on a 0 to 10, and we may not have time to really work through this here, but just identifying it might be, it's safe for me to speak my truth. How true does that feel, with 0 being not true at all and 10 being completely true?
It depends on the environment.
Okay, so it's always safe to speak my truth then, is the belief.
It's not.
No, depends.
It's very low, 2 or 3.
Yeah. Right. Okay, well, let's just do a little exercise on this all together. We've got just a couple minutes here, but it's enough. So let's do the tapping back and forth, right, left, and ask yourself in a really deep way, and we're just going to go right back to the origins of this. How did I learn that it wasn't safe to speak my truth? And I want you to sift through all the incidents, all the times when it really felt that it wasn't safe, and find that one time that was the key moment, the most traumatic.
Well, it will have to go really, 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 really far back. I don't want to freak anybody out.
Okay.
But it was in my very, very, very young childhood. I love my parents, first of all, and I forgive them for everything. My father was an occasional drunk, and my mother was an everyday alcoholic, and not violent. So please don't feel that sorry for me. But you always had to be careful, about what you said when you said it, because you never knew when you were going to upset somebody.
Right.
And I've talked to my parents about this, both of them, my mom and my dad.
So let's just stay with the feeling.
Yeah, my mom tended to use me against my father because I was very close to my father. So she used me as a weapon to get what she wanted.
Yeah. So I want you to just go back to that moment when you felt like you were being used by a weapon when you were really, 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 really young. That moment when it was absolutely unsafe to speak your truth. And that whole sense of being used as a weapon, remember how that felt. Specifically, feel that in your throat. Feel what it felt like right there.
Yeah.
Feel the moment. I want you to get in touch with the moment that you shut down.
Well, I don't remember that far back.
Just imagine. Okay, this doesn't have to be accurate. You don't have to remember with your mind. I want you to remember with your imagination and feel that clenching, and just imagine that little girl, a 3-year-old, making that decision to just be quiet. It's not safe to speak. And just be back with her. Keep tapping side to side, back and forth, and stay in that feeling. And hear the little thoughts that go through the little one's head and the decision that you made at that moment. And then I want you to see that 3-year-old from the outside. And I want her to become aware of you and you to be right there with her. And what would you do? What would you say to the 3-year-old?
I'd give her a big hug.
Yeah. So just pick her up and hug her. Just fill her with love. And as you're doing that, there is behind you this future you. And for one, her thyroid's just fine. And there's no more hair there on her chin. And she completely finds it safe to speak her truth every moment of every day in every situation. There's nothing shut down there that holds her back. And she comes up to you holding the little one. And what does she do? What does she say?
I'm sorry. I'm just...
It's okay.
I'm a little emotional right now.
That's good.
I don't know what she would say to me.
Just use your imagination. Maybe it's not even words. Maybe she just sends an energy because she knows it's safe to speak her truth. What truth might she say to you?
I think she would hug me back.
Yeah. So here she is hugging the adult you that's hugging the child. And just sending all that in, that it's safe, that she's always safe, that she deserves to be heard, that little voice has something to tell the world, and she is safe, and she is loved. And she lets her know that she shouldn't have been used as a weapon, and that she is not a weapon. And that she's absolutely loved. And just feel that loving presence just going right into the little one, right into her throat area, just opening that up like you're reversing that decision to shut down. Just imagine that it really was okay. And perhaps that future you promises the little one that she will be with her always, helping her keep this open, helping her know that she is safe, protecting her, that no one can harm her, and that she'll always be safe. And how does the little one feel now?
A lot better, a lot safer.
Mm-hmm. And as the adult you checks back in with this idea, how true does the idea now that it's always safe to speak your truth feel on that 0 to 10 scale?
I would like to say a 10, but it's probably more like a 7.
Beautiful. As a 7 is 70%. A 7 is a big majority of you is saying it's safe to speak your truth. If you just were to begin to speak it 70% of the time versus that beginning 2 or 20 or 30%, what a huge difference that's going to make. And the more you speak it, the wider open that gets and the safer it becomes. And the more you will begin to experience how safe it is. And before long, maybe even within a day or two, you check back in at that belief, because the parts of you that now know that it is safe will be talking in the background to the parts of you that still think it's not. And within a few days, I bet it will be a 10.
You know what? Mm-hmm. You know what's funny, though? Even though I never felt it was safe, I still speak my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm always waiting to get fired.
Mm-hmm. So now you're seeing all the ways in which you really do speak your truth, but there's an energy about there that's been shut. And that's that whole what's affecting everything physically. So it's allowing it to be safe. Allowing it really to be safe. Maybe it hasn't stopped you, but it still hasn't felt safe. So there's a holding of energy there.
Yeah, it's never felt safe. It's from my earliest memories, and my memories go back to actually a very, I won't go into details, but my memories go back to very, very young, probably younger than most people will remember. Mm-hmm. And it's never been safe.
Yeah. So I want you to imagine it having been safe. And your homework on this area is to simply imagine that your future self was there with you, like she made a pact with you, this future you, and that she was there watching over like an angel, watching over that little one from all those earliest memories. And you might add that in. You might even imagine that you had an imaginary friend that was this future you, that was taking care of you and watching over you. And just let that play out in your imagination and your meditations over the next few days. And just be open to seeing and feeling and experiencing a shift. And notice what that's like for you.
Thank you. I really
thank you.
Appreciate both of you so much.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah. Total appreciation here. Now, Jason, we've run a little over 2 hours and 4 minutes at this point, so I know your energy is so I want to make sure we get in the special offer. So let me do that part, and we can see if we want to stick around for more or not. But what we've decided between Jason and I is that we would offer to everyone listening to this call, and this is it, whether it's a recording of this call and it's even years from now, or you're live on the call at this moment, that we're offering you $50 off what our normal session price is for 2 hours. So anybody who wants to experience us can and save. If you do both of us, which I recommend that you do Jason first and figure out the physical, do the revealing, and then share with me what that is in your session with me. And you can have this experience kind of like you experienced it on the call. And again, we'd give you $50 off. Now, for those of you on the call, especially those of you that stayed to the very end of this call, for all of you here right now, a very special offer. And for those of you that managed to listen to this before this offer expires, we're offering double that, $100 off of our sessions if you book that session by the end of the weekend, by this coming Monday. So I encourage you to do that, and that extends to you, your friends, your family, anyone that you know that really needs this. You don't have to do this session this weekend. You just simply have to book it by Monday, the 19th? Monday the 19th.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's the 19th. Are you both in the Sedona area?
Yes. Yes, we are. We are both here in the Sedona area, and it looks like I've lost Jason on the line. His battery may have run out.
Oh no, I'm here with you. I apologize.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. No, with it getting dark here on the mountain, I'm looking for my reflector on my car.
Okay. Well, for some reason you dropped off my screen at this end, so I thought, oh no, I lost him.
Oh no, I'm right here with you.
Great. And so to book sessions with us, simply visit our websites. Mine is Trancebreakers, TRANCEBREAKERS, Breaking the Trance, trancebreakers.com, and Jason's is titansgate.net. And for mine, you can see a link to book a session. On Jason's, there's a place to enter information if you're interested in a session. Please mention this phone call to get the discount when you're working with Jason, and you'll see a special session called Revealing and Healing Core Belief Transformation, CBT, on my site, and click on that to book the session at the discounted rates. And everybody, thank you, especially Jason. Thank you. Is there anything you want to add, Jason?
I just want to say that, from one gentleman in this field to another, that I do appreciate all the work that you do, Rick. And kind of like myself, I was listening to everything and thinking, wow, there's some things that really implicate in my life that I would need to be tapping on. So I truly do appreciate it. And of course, I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen, participate, and show the interest. It means a lot to us both. And we just want to thank everybody and really appreciate the time. And I can't wait to bring on 2013.
Yes. So again, thank you everybody for taking the time to be on this call, and thank you, Jason, for continuing to use your gifts and share them with the world. What you do is very unique and life-changing, and my gratitude and my appreciation to you and to everybody who's listening. And may you all, for all of those in the United States, have a wonderful Thanksgiving this coming week.